Fight fans, welcome to the PBC podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Buhari and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome to the PBC podcast. I'm Kenneth Buhari.
I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thank you all for tuning in to another episode chock full of boxing talk. This week we've got two undefeated world champions joining us. WBC middleweight champion Jermall Charlo is in the house. Charlo, of course, will preview his June 19th title defense versus Juan Macias Montiel and much more. And we'll talk to WBA 140-pound champion Mario Barrios. Barrios has a huge opportunity coming up Saturday, June 26th. SHOWTIME pay-per-view versus Gervonta Tank Davis. What a card that one is. And speaking of cards, we had a pretty fun one last Saturday. We'll break all that action down. But first, some very sad news in the boxing world. Lightweight contender Felix Verdejo turned himself into Puerto Rican authorities. He's been charged with kidnapping and killing a woman who said she was pregnant with his baby, according to court documents. Mike, the entire story is just heartbreaking and sickening, quite frankly.
Yeah, what can you say? This case would be disturbing under any circumstances for obvious reasons. A young pregnant woman was murdered. The fact that a boxer that we've followed for many years allegedly committed the crime makes it somehow even more shocking. This poor woman is dead, and Verdejo could get the death penalty. And if he's convicted, if that happens, he joins the Carlos Monzones and the Tony Ayalas as the biggest monsters in the history of the sport. There are too many, actually. There's a list of them. I'll just say finally, I'll never understand how these people end up in such a dark place that something like this could happen. I mean, your wife or your girlfriend gets pregnant and your instinct is to kill them. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just, as you said at the beginning, it's just so sad. Yeah,
to kill them and then to kill your potential child.
It's just awful.
And then to know that, if you get caught, if you have any other children, how selfish is it? Because, now they lose a parent. So we'll see what happened. Yeah, it's just terrible. So, our thoughts and prayers are with her family, and I guess we'll see how this all unfolds. Now, in other news, Canelo Alvarez, the unified 168-pound champion and consensus pound-for-pound king, will return to the ring this Saturday against WBO titleist Billy Joe Saunders. Now, before we get into the fight, I just saw on the news, Mike, I don't know if this is true or not, but Billy Joe is threatening to pull out because of the ring size. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen it. That's happened before. He wants a bigger ring for obvious reasons. He wants to be able to move. I think it's just he's trying to use leverage to get his way. Isn't 20? I think 20 is a standard. It's a standard size. So I don't know where he's going with this, or maybe he's just stirring up trouble for whatever reason, help sell the fight. But I think it's about leverage. Maybe he's like, I'm going to try to get every advantage I can get, and that's what's going on. I don't know.
Now, what about the fight itself? What's your take?
First of all, I'll preface this by saying, I'll watch Canelo fight anybody. I mean, I just like watching Canelo Alvarez fight. But I think this is an example of where the pursuit of titles, in this case, unified titles, can lead a fighter astray. I've written this. Alvarez has better options than Saunders, but because he wants all 4 168-pound belts, he will have fought Callum Smith, Avni Yildirim, and Billy Joe Saunders in succession.
Yeah.
Make of that what you will. I wasn't excited about any of those opponents, and I'm still not. I understand the desire to become an undisputed champion, 100%. I get it. But you also have to think about the actual matchups. Now, that said, I want to add two things. First, I don't mean to disrespect Saunders. I really don't. He's a good, unbeaten boxer who's a legitimate opponent, at least on paper. And second, I think things will get interesting in September. That's when things are going to start to get interesting. He's supposed to, Alvarez is expected to fight Caleb Plant for all the marbles in September. And I just see Plant as a much more legitimate threat than the three guys that I just mentioned.
More so than Billy Joe Saunders, what you're saying. So I'm assuming you're obviously picking Canelo to beat Saunders.
Yeah. Yeah. Find me the person who's outside of Saunders' family who's picking Saunders.
Right.
I think Saunders.
Promoters picking him.
Right. I think, you know what? I think that's a whole different conversation, actually. He's mad at Eddie Hearn because he thinks Hearn's favoring Canelo, which
Right.
I would
Which
if I were.
is.
Yeah, which I would if I were in the same position. I think Saunders, again, I think he's a good boxer. He's a good, experienced boxer, but I think his problem might be a lack of punching power.
Yeah.
He's skilled and athletic enough to give Alvarez some problems for a while, probably. But I think Alvarez is going to gradually cut off the ring, which he's so good at. He's going to walk through whatever Saunders throws at him. He's going to break him down. I think he's going to stop him around the 9th round, give or take.
Yeah, I think so too, or win a decision. I'm not sure, but I think it'll be a pretty clear win for Canelo, depending on how fast Saunders can run. I think he's entering a totally different realm facing Canelo.
Oh, yeah.
But you mentioned, the Caleb Plant fight in September. I saw a recent interview from Canelo where he said he's targeting Plant, and then he's targeting Jermall Charlo and David Benavidez. Now, out of Plant, Charlo, and Benavidez, who do you think has the best shot to beat him?
Well, I'm going to go conservative here and just go with the obvious choice with Jermall. I just think it's a big, strong middleweight, complete fighter. There's no weakness whatsoever there. So I would say he's got the best chance. But I'll put it this way: I'm as intrigued with the Canelo versus Benavidez fight as I am with any fight in boxing.
Yeah.
I just think that fight would be absolutely fascinating to watch. But he doesn't have as much experience as Jermall. Maybe a little bit less of a proven commodity, although he's had some big wins. But to answer your question specifically, to me, it's obviously Jermall. That's the fight.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know who wins any of those 3 fights. The fans win. That's for sure. The fans win. All 3
That's an exciting gauntlet for sure.
Right, exactly. That would be amazing. So hopefully that happens. And with that, that's enough of the hot takes. We're going to jump right into our interview. He is the undefeated WBA 140-pound champion, making his ring return Saturday, June 26th against Gervonta Tank Davis in a blockbuster Showtime pay-per-view headliner, Mario El Azteca Barrios. Mario, huge card in California last weekend, Andy Ruiz versus Ruiz-Arreola. Did you get a chance to see it, and what were your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, I got a chance to see it. I thought it was a great fight. I personally, I thought the scores were a little off, but I mean, hats off to both dudes. I mean, I've been fans of both for a good while now. I thought Andy Ruiz had won, of course, no doubt. I mean, with his boxing, but I do believe that the scorecards were pretty off. I gave Arreola a lot more rounds than what they had given him. But I mean, I thought it was an awesome card from start to finish.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned an awesome card. Did anybody else stand out on the card to you?
Yeah, I mean, every one of them. I mean, the Figueroa fight that didn't end how I think most people expected.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else was on there. Oh, the Fundora.
Yeah.
Man, he's just continuing on what he does best. But yeah, I mean, it was awesome from start to finish.
Well, getting to you, you have a big fight on June 26th against Gervonta Davis on Showtime pay-per-view. What was going through your head when you first heard that this could be your next fight?
I was pretty taken away. It wasn't a name I was expecting, to hear for my next fight. But I mean, it's a tremendous opportunity for me. I'm not going to take anything away from Gervonta, and everything he has accomplished. He's a great fighter inside the ring, and I respect what he's trying to do, as far as jumping up, and fighting a champion. But yeah, I mean, I believe they made a mistake with me. But again, I mean, I'm excited for this opportunity, and I mean, I believe it's going to be a great fight for boxing fans.
Well, part of this is you're going to be headlining a pay-per-view show, big pay-per-view show. You got to be really excited about that.
No, yeah, it's I mean, it was really, I mean, hearing about it, it's a dream come true. I mean, this is everything I have been working for, since I first began boxing. Just hearing, my name is going to be headlining SHOWTIME pay-per-view. I mean, it really just, sums up, all the work that I had, put in my career and how everything is paying off.
Could you walk us through how this fight happened? Like, when did you first hear about it and so forth?
I had first heard a word about it around February or March from my managers. Luis de Cubas, he told me that Gervonta and his team had threw my name out there as a fight that they had wanted for their next fight. And I mean, I've never turned down a fight. I have always said, man, I'm willing to fight anybody. And like I said, I mean, just whether fans like him or not, man, Gervonta, has one of the biggest names, in the sport. And like I said, I mean, I'm excited for this opportunity. This is the type of fight where, I get to rise to the occasion and I get to show everybody how great I am.
Have you started training for this fight?
Oh yeah. I've been in the Bay training for a good minute now. I was originally expecting to get back into the ring, I believe, around April. So I mean, I was already out here getting prepared, and then that's when the fight was started getting announced more. Well, it was being rumored that it was going to be more towards the end of the summer, and so I mean, we had to pull back on camp a little bit, but I have a great team. Verge is a very technical coach. He knows exactly how to pull back, so he doesn't overtrain his fighters, and that's exactly what we ended up doing.
So obviously this is a big event, but do you do anything different in terms of preparation, or in the end, is this really just another fight?
No, I mean, it's at the end of the day, I mean, I prepare for every one of my opponents, as if, it's a championship fight, as if it's my biggest fight of my career. So, I mean, preparation, it's still the same. But, I mean, we know the opponent, the caliber of opponent we have in front of us, is definitely a step up. So, I mean, just making sure, we're on top of, everything in the boxing gym. But, yeah, I mean, just, making sure we're doing everything we have to be prepared for the best, Gervonta Davis, that anybody has seen.
So how about sparring? Are you guys out there looking for short, left-handed guys who punch hard?
Yeah, that's been one of the main differences. Just finding just a sparring to match with Gervonta's build and the fighters that fight similar to Tank. Which I mean it's not simple, but there are quite a few fighters out there, and so I mean we have the right sparring lined up.
Now, you spoke about Tank and his star power. What are your thoughts on him as a fighter?
Oh man, I mean, I think he's a great fighter. A lot of people, I feel that they don't give him enough credit because he stops a lot of his fighters. But even aside from that, he has a great boxing IQ. He's a southpaw, and he's a very explosive fighter. Who has a lot of speed and great foot movement. Like I said, I mean, it's an exciting fight. It's like I said, it's definitely a step up for me, and I believe it's a huge step up for him as well.
Well, that sort of leads to my next question. The highest weight Tank has fought as at 135 against Yuriorkis Gamboa. Did you see that fight? And if so, what were your thoughts?
I saw highlights of that fight, but that fight also, he was in there with Gamboa. Gamboa is a veteran who has been in, plenty of wars, who has kind of seen it all. So I mean, I wasn't too surprised that fight, had went the distance, and how Gamboa had presented him with issues. But I mean, I thought it was a good fight.
So an obvious question for me, can a guy who fought at 130 in his most recent fight possibly carry his punching power to 140? What are your thoughts on that?
Man, I mean, I'm asking the same questions, but at the end of the day, I think, man, Tank is going to be Tank regardless. He's gonna be explosive. You know, like I said, so we're preparing for the best version, you know, of Tank, you know, anybody has seen. So, you know, we're going into the fight, you know, with the mindset that, you know, that he is carrying his power up. And, we're just, you know, going to be prepared for anything.
What about his ability to take a punch from a legitimate 140-pounder? I mean, let's face it, you're certainly ahead of him, or a naturally bigger guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's something, you know, that, you know, we get to, I guess, personally test out, you know, and just to show everybody. But, you know, I mean, he's never touched the canvas. And I think a lot of people are overlooking that 10 out of my 11 fights at 140, you know, have all been stoppages. And even in that one fight, I managed to put my opponent on the canvas twice. So, I mean, you know, Gervonta's a big puncher, but, you know, I believe, man, my punching power is right there as well.
Now, speaking of punching power, what's the focus in camp? Are you training more to deal with a guy who has knockout power, or are you more dealing with someone who's smaller size? What's a bigger issue, and what are you preparing for in camp?
I mean, I'm not going to give away too much, of course, but like I said, I mean, I'm preparing for the best version of Tank, like we have seen. You know, so that includes, you know, his speed, you know, his power, his size. You know, where we got to, you know, make sure, you know, I'm on top of everything this camp.
Now, we know your trainer, Virgil Hunter. You guys have been together for a few years now. How did you guys first connect?
We connected after one of my, I believe it was when I fought for the IBS title eliminator at 130. And, I mean, pretty much, we felt that, you know, that there was a change we had to make. And my manager had already had connections with Virgil. They already had a relationship, and my manager, Ruiz-Arreola, had said that he felt that our styles had matched up very well. And I believe Virg had commentated on a fight of mine previous to that, and so Virg already knew a little bit about my style, and it was a style that caught his attention. So I mean, I came out here to the Bay Area after that fight with Davis Bochero. I came out here to the Bay Area for a week, and to work with Virg, just to see how our styles were gonna match up. And man, within that week, man, I loved it. Being out here with Virg, just the way he coached, the way he was in the boxing gym, and just even outside of the boxing gym, he's always been a great mentor to me. So man, yeah. After that, we decided to keep working together. And I mean, now, we're, like I said, 11-0 with 10 knockouts together.
So you just mentioned your knockouts. A few years ago, it seemed like the light switch flipped, and you just started knocking guys out left and right. Did something change that led to that?
Well, I know one of the main things when me and Virgil had started working together was he said that if we started working together, he wanted me at my natural weight, which at the time I was I believe it was around like 137. So, I mean, I was actually, cutting down to get to 130, when I shouldn't have been. And I believe, that was one of the main things, that was leading, to my fights, going the distance, and, me not having the energy or power, to even to finish off my opponents sometimes, even when I had them hurt at the lower weight divisions. As opposed to now, and just, under Virgil's guidance in the first place, he has made me a more complete fighter defensively. I believe, like now, I work well, off my jab. I'm setting up the punches a lot better, and everything is just flowing a lot more natural for me. So, I mean, I think, there's multiple reasons why, the fights have been, they haven't been going the distance since I have moved up to 140.
So you had one close call against Batyer Akhmedov, which you won on points. What did you learn from that fight?
I learned a lot, man. That was a crazy ass fight. I tip my hats off to Akhmedov every day of the week, man. He was, at the end of the day, he was a warrior in there for 12 rounds with me. But we're able to take a lot from that fight. Even that fight, I learned a lot about myself, what I should change and what I should keep on working on in camp. And it was overall, man, it was a great learning experience for me. I get asked about that fight a lot, and man, I have no regrets about that fight. That's still one of my favorite fights, even though it was a nail biter, for my team and for the people that cared about me. They didn't like to see me in that, in that type of shape, but I had always told everybody, when I get in the ring, I'm a warrior. To get me out of there, you're gonna have to come with something different. And in that fight, I took Akhmedov's best punches for 12 rounds, and never touched the canvas. There was never an ounce of quit in me. And when things got tough in the championship rounds, I managed to put him down in the 12th round and seal my victory.
Now, the last time we spoke, you were actually targeting a rematch with him. Whatever happened with that?
I'm not too sure. I never really heard anything much about this. And then, like I said, before this fight was even announced, we were looking at actually making my debut at welterweight. Because it's only a matter of time before I outgrow the junior welterweight division. I've already been here for 4 to 5 years now, but because of my size, I'm getting older. I'll be 26 in like 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm noticing my body now. It's holding on to muscle a lot more, and cutting down fight by fight, it's getting a little bit harder and harder. But as soon as it becomes too much on me physically, then me and my team will sit down and we'll probably make the jump up. But I was looking at being back in April. We're gonna have our debut at 147. Up until this fight was presented to us. Oh,
Mike, did you hear that? He said he's getting older. He's turning 26.
Yeah, I thought he's an old man now.
So
I feel like it, man.
Trust me, 26. Yeah. You've got so many years ahead of you. How do you? How long do you think you'll be at 140? Then I know you're sticking around for this fight, but let's say you win, would you stick around, for another fight, or would you immediately go to 47?
No, yeah. Like I had said, while I'm here, I plan on being in the junior welterweight division another year or so, and I know that Ramirez and Taylor, have their up and coming bout, and man, if I could get a shot, at the unified champion, of the winner of that fight.
Now, getting back to Akhmedov for a second, he was a shorter lefty. Do you think maybe Tank's team is looking at that fight and thinking, well, he had some success, maybe we can have some success too?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I feel like, man, I've gotten so much shit from that fight. I feel like every fighter, they're looking at that fight and, they see me as, as a fighter that they can beat because of that fight. But, man, at the end of the day, man, Akhmedov is a hell of a fighter. Like I said, man, I'm much respect to him. He was I fought him he was 28 years old. He had tons of experience from the amateurs and the Olympics. And even though I fought him, with only 7 fights, we knew going into the fight, it was a lose-lose situation. Because if I went in there and I knocked him out, then, I would have heard, he only had 7 fights. He shouldn't have been in there. But because of the fight went how it went, it just flipped it. Now it's like, I'm a bum because, a guy with 7 fights gave me that type of fight. But like I said, man, Akhmedov is a hell of a fighter. I think a lot of people overlooked that just because, the amount of fights that he had. But I'm sure Tank and them, they have, reviewed that fight just because he was a southpaw as well, with similar size. But like I said before, I was able to take away a lot from that experience, and I feel I have grown a lot from that fight.
Okay, so how is the fight with Davis going to play out?
I'm not gonna give too many predictions. I'm just gonna say, man, I'm going in there, prepared in every aspect, mentally, physically, spiritually. I'm very focused for this fight. I'm excited for the opportunity, and I'm just gonna go in there and do what I do best.
So I was going to ask you whether you thought you were going to stop him, so I might as well not ask you that, right?
Yeah. No, I never go into any fight looking for a knockout. But I mean, if it comes, then it comes. But whenever I'm in there, I'm definitely, everything I throw is with bad intentions.
Mario, it's always a pleasure to have you, and we're excited too. We can't wait to see this fight, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk afterward.
Yeah, no, of course. I appreciate you guys taking time to talk to me. It's always a pleasure.
All right, it's time for the week in review, and what a Saturday night it was for fight fans. A stacked all-Mexican Fox Sports pay-per-view that lived up to the hype. So did the Fox PBC Fight Night card before it, but let's start from the top. The main event of the pay-per-view, former unified world heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz Jr. took on former world title challenger Ruiz-Arreola. Ruiz was a heavy favorite coming in, but fights aren't won on paper. It was far closer than many anticipated. Ruiz even tasted canvas in the second round, but he got up, got himself together, and walked away with a unanimous decision win. Mike, overall, what were your thoughts on Ruiz's performance?
I thought it was a good performance, especially given the layoff. It's a long layoff. He obviously had that shaky start, which could have ended up being a disaster. I thought for a second it was going to. But he got through it. He settled into a nice groove, I thought. And I thought he controlled the second 2/3 of the fight. I just love the quick 2 and 3 punch combinations that he landed pretty consistently in the latter part of the fight. His hands are just ridiculously quick for a heavyweight. Yeah. Arreola didn't even see them coming. They were both accurate. They were hard. I don't think Arreola was ever hurt necessarily, but that might speak to his chin more than Ruiz's power. And finally, you notice that Arreola really wasn't able to land those big shots in the second half of the fight. I think Ruiz did a good job of maintaining distance. And maybe Arreola slowed down a little bit, but I think it was more Ruiz just keeping proper distance. He was just in full control. Overall, I thought it was a good performance by him.
Yeah, we saw Ruiz's ring IQ in this one, and you mentioned Arreola's chin. Look, he's been stopped, 3 times? Well, he's in the case of Klitschko and Wilder, basically the ref had to step in. I mean, he's got a very, very good chin. Did we see Ruiz's new trainer, Eddie Reynoso? Did we see Reynoso's influence in Ruiz's performance?
Well, we're going to get into this in the next portion, but, in terms of conditioning, we definitely did. By all accounts, Reynoso rode his ass for months, so he could shed that weight and get into shape. And I think he actually looked pretty sharp after the early trials. Maybe beginning in the 4th or 5th round, he was landing those combinations. Not much was coming back at him. He was in charge, and I have to give Reynoso at least some credit for a good game plan.
Yeah, I think that Ruiz had definitely had some ring rust early on that it took him some time to shed, but you kind of alluded to this. How was Ruiz's conditioning to you?
Well, the weight loss spoke for itself. Obviously, he worked hard to get down to 256, which is 27.5 pounds less than he was for the second Joshua fight.
Right.
And maybe that played a role in his ability to survive those first several rounds. You can't underestimate that. That's one reason conditioning is so important. It helps you get through difficult moments like that.
Yeah.
And while he didn't throw a ton of punches, he threw enough to win rounds, and he didn't seem particularly tired at the end, at least not to me. I hope this is the new Ruiz. He says he wants to continue to transform his body, which is going to take hard work year-round, like no significant breaks. We'll see if he can stick with it.
Let's talk about Ruiz-Arreola. I mean, look, a lot of people believed he wasn't going to last the distance with Ruiz, and he was written off by a lot of people who didn't even think it would be competitive. What were your thoughts on Arreola's performance?
Well, the thing that stood out to me is it was gutsy, which is typical of him. Otherwise it was okay. He still has the power, which we saw early. But once Ruiz got into his groove, I think Arreola was sort of at a loss, if you will. He couldn't really get much done. He was in good shape, but maybe at 40 age is just starting to play a role in what he can do. I don't know. He threw about half the number of punches he threw in the Kovnatsky fight. which was a crazy number. I think part of that was Ruiz didn't take the fight to Arreola like Kovnatsky did. He mostly countered. At the same time, I thought maybe if Arreola were a little bit busier than he was, he might have done a little bit better. But I think a lot of that had to do with what Ruiz, showed him.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like it was by design. Ruiz, very good counterpuncher, probably kept Arreola from throwing so many punches. Speaking of Ruiz, Mike, he was on top of the world. He lost his titles, and now he's back in the hunt. Who would you like to see him face next?
Well, he mentioned Luis Ortiz. I like that fight. It's a tough fight for both guys, which is how it's supposed to be. I think Ruiz might be too quick for Ortiz, especially a guy who's getting on in years. But the Cuban is always going to be a threat. He's got that power. He knows what he's doing in there. And I still like the idea of Ruiz against Deontay Wilder. That's a good matchup for both guys. The winner takes a big step toward a title shot. Of course, we have to still see what happens with Fury and Joshua and Wilder. That hasn't been settled yet. And anyway, Ruiz and Wilder is just a fun matchup for the fans also. I mean, who wouldn't be interested in seeing that? One more possibility is Otto Wallin, who we both had in our top 10 heavyweights.
Sure.
Again, that would be a really good opportunity for both guys to take a big step toward another title shot. So Ruiz is a hot commodity right now. He's got a lot of options.
Yeah, I didn't think about Wallin, but that's actually a pretty good fight when I think about it, Ruiz would have his hands full against Wallin. I also love the Luis Ortiz fight. Of course, the Deontay Wilder match would be, monstrous pay-per-view. So looking forward to seeing what Ruiz does next. Hopefully he keeps busy. Let's talk about the co-feature. It's a welterweight battle between former world champion Omar Figueroa Jr. and Abel Ramos. This wasn't very close. Ramos just dominated Figueroa, forcing a corner stoppage at the end of 6 rounds. Mike, how did Ramos look to you?
I thought he gave a solid performance, which he pretty much always does. I think a good boxer can outbox a really good boxer can outbox him, as Brian Perella did until he ended up getting knocked out at the end. That's one reason I thought Figueroa might win that fight. That wasn't Figueroa though, at least not the one from earlier in his career. He was vulnerable. That version of Figueroa was made for a solid guy like Ramos, who throws straight, hard punches and just doesn't let up. I thought he had a really good night.
Yeah, he certainly did. And, we had Figueroa on the podcast a week ago. He was talking about a first-round KO, that he felt better than ever. What'd you make of how he looked?
Well, I wrote this. It was just hard to watch that. He's a guy, he once had elite level skill. He just doesn't anymore, which is why Ramos was able to just tear him apart. I'll never forget that image of him in his corner, his head hanging, spitting blood into a bucket. Yeah. It was just sad. And I really hate to say that a guy has lost his ability, particularly after he sounded so optimistic on the podcast last week. Yeah. Maybe something was going on that I'm not aware of. I doubt it, though. I just saw a guy who was just lost in there.
Yeah, he looked like he was out of his depth, and Ramos pretty much had his way. Where does Figueroa go from here, coming off that kind of performance? And not to mention how he looked against Yordenis Ugas as well, where he was whitewashed for 12 rounds.
Yeah, I would suggest that he retire based solely on what he's been through and what I saw on Saturday. That's another thing I hate to say. I don't want to tell a guy he should retire, that he should stop doing something he loves to do. We know he repeated that, several times in the podcast. He loves to fight. And who knows, maybe he would do better at 140, which he told us before the fact that he planned to do. But my gut tells me that he's done. That wasn't a good performance. It was really hard to watch. It just seems to me like he's finished.
Yeah, he's got a lot of pondering to do, I think, regarding his future. What about Ramos? Who would you like to see him face next?
That's a good question. I think he's I don't want to minimize what he's capable of and what he accomplished in that fight, but I think he's sort of like a good second choice for the top welterweights, if you know what I mean. Like if a top guy can't get the top guy that he wants, that Ramos is a legitimate backup, especially now. Maybe he fights Perella again. I think that maybe that fight called for a rematch because Perella was winning, and then what happened at the end happened. Maybe that makes sense. Josecito Lopez his name keeps popping in my head when you're asking me about welterweight opponents. That's another option, maybe a good fight for him. We can go a different direction. Maybe he's a good test for a young guy coming up, like an Ennis or a Stanionis,
Right.
if they can't get a title fight. Deep division, a lot of options for Ramos, and he did himself a favor on Saturday. So he's in a better position now than he's ever been in.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that fight for Ennis. That's a really dangerous fight for Ennis or for Stanionis as well. Either way, he's definitely earned a big fight, I believe, next. Looking forward to seeing what happens. Now, we had one hell of a 154-pound battle. Rising Sebastian Fundora stopped Jorge Cota in 4 rounds. Mike, a bit of a controversial KO. Referee Ray Corona stepped in and stopped the bout as Cota landed a pretty hard shot. What did you make of the stoppage?
I thought it was a little strange because, as you just said, the referee literally stopped the fight a split second after Cota landed a hard punch. I mean, you rarely see something like that. He was definitely fighting back, until the end. At the same time, I think it was pretty clear that he was hurt. He was hurt pretty badly. If Corona had stopped the fight before that punch, maybe no one would have even questioned it. I don't know. I don't think it was the best stoppage, but I don't have a big problem with it.
Yeah, like you said, he was already hurt. But one thing I noticed looking at the replays is that, the referee just didn't see the other punch landing. He was so focused on Cota, seeing that he was hurt and getting ready to stop it, that when that shot from Fundora landed, he just stepped in, not realizing that the harder shot came from Cota. Now, what about the fight itself? I mean, it didn't last long, but man, it was a damn good match.
That was a great fight. Within seconds of the opening bell, I sort of shifted to the edge of my seat and thought, holy crap, this is crazy. Right. I really feared for Fundora for a short time. He was taking some bombs from a pretty big puncher. Cota's got a lot of power, and he just took them. That was something. And they never deterred him like one iota. He just kept throwing his own bombs until he broke down and then stopped Cota. That was a brutal fight for as long as it lasted. I think this is who Fundora is, an entertaining brawler, no matter how far he goes. I don't know how far he's going to go, but it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, it sure is. Speaking of which, who would you like to see him face next?
Well, wasn't that a title eliminator? So in theory, he should be in position to face anyone now. I wouldn't put him in the ring with a Jermall Charlo just yet, though. Somebody, at that level. I keep bringing up my stepping stone potential opponents. I'm thinking maybe a Jesse Vargas level fighter, maybe a Jason Rosario. If you recall, Cota lost a split decision to Rosario, and Fundora just did to Cota what he did. Maybe Perella is an option for Fundora. That would be an interesting style matchup. A brawler against a boxer. Anyway, I think he's 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. And again, I for one cannot wait to see how this thing unfolds.
Yeah, for sure. I can't either. I mean, it was a great fight. Fundora is just a great action fighter, and I think he's going to make a lot of noise at 154. Now, the pay-per-view televised opener featured a welterweight battle between unbeaten 20-year-old Jesus Ramos Jr. against veteran Javier Molina. Molina took Ramos the distance, 10 rounds for the first time in Ramos's career, but Ramos controlled the action from start to finish, winning a 10-round decision. Mike, how did Ramos look to you in his big step-up bout?
I thought it was a good performance given Molina's pedigree and his ability. I thought Ramos was both too good and too strong for Molina. Molina even said afterward that Ramos just a big, strong guy. And once again, I liked Ramos's poise. You'd never know he's 20 years old. He didn't get the knockout, which I guess you could criticize him for. I mean, the last couple of rounds, and instead of, I guess some guys would have tried to finish the job. Instead, he seemed content just to box and get in the round.
What'd you make of that?
Well, he said afterward that he appreciated the opportunity to get in the work, which kind of it was a little bit weird, but it kind of makes sense. He feels like in order for him to develop, he needs work in the ring, and that's what he got in those last couple of rounds. Anyway, overall, I thought it was a good night for him. There was no question who was in charge, who was going to win that fight. It was a good night.
Now, who'd you like to see Ramos face next?
I definitely wouldn't rush him, which I've said in the past. He wants to be a title holder before he turns 22, right? I think that's doable, but he could still have 4 or 5 fights before he fights for a title in that time frame. So I would just take small steps toward my objective if I were him. I didn't really think about who specifically might fight, but that would be sort of my philosophy. Just small steps, and I think he could accomplish what he wants to accomplish.
Right, he's only 20 years old. I mean, I feel they,
Right.
Should definitely take their time with him. There's no urgency. Now, the night began with Fox PBC Fight Night and the return of the American Dream, Arislandi Lara, attempting to become a 2-division champion as he faced Thomas Cornflake LaManna for the WBA regular middleweight title. And if you blinked, you missed it because Lara flattened LaManna with a single left in the first round. Mike, what were your thoughts of what you saw?
Well, there wasn't much to it. LaManna couldn't even see those left hands before the knockout punch. He just couldn't see those left hands coming. He's still pretty quick at 38. I think he's 38. Pretty quick at 38 years old. And the one that got him was just perfect. He just had all his weight behind it, which is why LaManna had no hope of getting up. We don't think of Lara as a power puncher, but he could still turn it on against the right opponent, can he?
Yeah, I believe so. And you know what? It makes him that much better if you ask me. I mean, look, he's getting older. He's sitting down on his punches more. And maybe the move up to middleweight, helps him. Who knows? Who would we like to see Lara face next?
Well, I think that was the perfect result for him. He stirred up a little excitement and got his name back out there. He's a guy who arguably has earned one more shot at a major title if anybody is willing to give it to him. I could see him against any of the top middleweights, Charlo, Murata, Triple G, Andrade, any of them. But he won the WBA secondary title. Murata holds the actual WBA title. Maybe it's him. I mean, that's the one that makes the most sense. But the bottom line, Lara's given a lot to boxing. I'd like to see him get one more shot.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think at this point, I want to see Lara in one more big fight. Now, speaking of getting a big fight in a televised opener, Eduardo Ramirez, he's on fire, folks. In case you haven't noticed, that's 3 knockouts in a row, and the competition has been strong. Ramirez scored a 3rd-round TKO over Isaac Avalar. He's now the WBA interim featherweight world champion. Says he wants to fight versus Leo Santa Cruz, and I'm all for it. Now, just a reminder, guys, in our prediction league, I am now 14-1-2. I'm on fire like Eduardo Ramirez is basically. Mike trails by a good margin. He's 12-2-2.
A bad margin.
That's serious right there. I got a 2-game lead right now. I'm playing with house money. I expect that gap to widen, but we'll see. We've got a lot of great fights on the docket. All right, it's time to bring in our next guest, one of the very best fighters in the game today, and also one of the most exciting in and out of the ring. He's won titles in 2 divisions and is the current undefeated WBC middleweight champion of the world, Jermall Charlo. Jermall, first things first, June 19th, you put your WBC world middleweight title on the line versus Juan Macias Montiel. How excited are you to be back in the ring?
I'm excited. I fight who they put in front of me. So regardless of, who they put in front of me, I train hard for every fight. So I'm excited to showcase my talent June 19th. I'm on Showtime, so you guys get a chance to see me back at it again.
So what can you tell us about Montiel? Is he someone you studied, or is it just about what you do and how you prepare?
I let my coaches do the studying. From what I know, he deserves a shot. And anybody who's going for a world title is going to fight for their life. And I know for sure he'll be prepared for war, and I will be too.
Okay, last time we saw you was in a pay-per-view doubleheader, big pay-per-view doubleheader. Your brother beat Jason Rosario to unify, and you scored a huge win over Sergey Derevyanchenko. How proud were you of what you and your brother accomplished that night?
Great night of boxing. We both took the dubs. A lot of people underestimated me and underestimated my skills against Derevyanchenko, so I have to go out and show my talent. I have to show him, I'm going to beat him at every punch. I'm going to in every atmosphere. And that's what I did, in the bubble or out the bubble, it doesn't matter. So that's just part of it,
That was, a lot of people think perhaps the finest win of your career, definitely one of your biggest wins. Do you ever sit back and reflect on how far you've come in the sport of boxing?
Yeah, I do. 2 world titles, 31-0, 22 knockouts. still slept on. One of the most feared boxers in the game. Yeah, it's been a journey, but at the same time, I've been still just fighting for the chance and fighting for the right to be called one of the best in the world.
Now, along with all of your boxing accomplishments, you've got a beautiful family, you've got an incredible house, you've made a lot of money. How do you maintain your hunger?
Every time I get up in the morning, I look at those world titles up on the ceiling, and I'm like, it's more out there, it's more out there, it's more to come, and I'm hungry to just consider myself one of the best in the world. I don't care if it's undefeated or not. Like, that doesn't matter to me. I'm just really here to fight the best out there, and that's been the hardest achievement right now. So it is what it is.
Speaking of fighting the best out there, so you were a champ at 54, then you moved up to 160 and positioned yourself to become the mandatory to Canelo's title. So your team has also made offers to Gennady Golovkin and Demetrius Andrade. Does it frustrate you that maybe not many people are aware of that part of the story?
Yeah, that part of the story is not really out there, but but obviously my team know, my camp know. We've reached out to the guys like Golovkin, Canelo, and Andrade. Whoever has the belt at 160, obviously I'm one of the top tiers in the division, so that it's not like they could avoid me. But, of course I'm the most avoided. But, all I got to do is just keep fighting and keep winning, right?
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of Golovkin, is that a fight that you really want? And do you think that fight can be made?
Yeah, it's a fight that I really want. Yeah, it's a fight that can be made. It's just a matter of time, It's a matter of like, how can we get Golovkin in the ring with Jermall Charlo? We both kind of, want things to be our way. A side, B side. I'll take the B side. I'll fight in the big ring if they want a big ring. I'll fight in the city if they want me to fight in their city. I don't pick the fight. Like I said, I'm not into the management group. What I do is what I do for a living, and that's fight.
Now, one person who seems to mention your name a lot is Demetrius Andrade. He recently won a decision over Liam Williams. Did you see that fight? And from your eye, what are your thoughts on Andrade as a fighter?
Man, they doing a great job of keeping him active, I guess. They good techniques, durable guy. Want to see if he can survive in there with big punches like me. Stylistically, styles make matchups. He has one of those kind of awkward type styles, but it's not. I don't see nothing. I don't really see a threat. Like Denver Chico pose a bigger threat than I think Andrade probably would. But being in the southpaw stance, things of that nature, it's not so about the style. It's about how can we get the matchup to be made. Two world champions, big unification, about something I'm always been interested in. Man, we're not dodging nobody. We're not ducking nobody. We don't pick the fights. We don't handle the agreements. You guys they gotta understand that. They're just part of boxing. They watering the sport down. Just put it like that.
Do you take Andrade serious when he calls you out and so forth? Do you think he's serious?
Man, it's part of the boxing. It's part of the hype. It's not that I take him serious. It's not that I take what he says serious or not. Like, I take what I do serious. I study my craft. I study Jermall Charlo. I'm not here to you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care about dude. Like you said, I got a big family, big house, I live big life. He ain't living nothing like me. The opportunity is for him. I'm the lotto ticket when in his ballpark. Nobody know Demetrius Andrade. Nobody know them fight. Nobody care when he fight. He ain't get no views. He ain't like that when it come. He's just talking. So like, I don't know if he's serious or not, but I am.
Another guy that's come up is Jarrett Hurd. I guess he's rumored to be appearing on Floyd Mayweather's exhibition with Logan Paul. Maybe he's going to move up to the middleweight division. Is there a chance we see a fight between you and him? And do you have a message for him?
I'm the champion of the world, and it's going to stay like that. Jerry Hurd pose no threat, don't have nothing to offer. Just like Benavidez, just like Andrade, them. They only thing stepped aside from Andrade and all those other guys in the other divisions is that Andrade slipped up on the title. You know what I mean? He got a title that nobody care about. Nobody care about, you know what I'm saying? They want to see Jermall Charlo fight the best in the world. You think Jerry Hurd one of the best in the world? If I was to get a fight with Jerry Hurd, they'd be like, oh, Jermall Charlo's fighting a guy that's coming off of a loss and all this shit. You know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna never give me my credit. So it's like I'll fight who they put in front of me.
How much longer do you think you're going to be at 160 before you move up?
I'm at 160 right now, man. I'm making it real smooth. We campaigning at 160 pounds. They want to see me. They got to come to 160.
So now one person who's at 168 right now, Canelo Alvarez, if you were and him were to fight, would it be at 160 or?
We could fight for the franchise.
Okay.
I'm down for unified franchise, WBC versus WBC. We never seen that in history before.
Now speaking of Canelo, he's taking on Billy Joe Saunders. What do you make of that fight?
I'll fight in the big ring.
Yeah.
Don't be worried about no excuses. I'll fight at the weight, big ring, whatever they want. Man, it's the fight that the fans want to see. That's the fight I'm trying to give them.
Yeah. So when you heard that thing about the ring, why would a fighter say that? Is it just because he wants the bigger ring? Is it fear, or what do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it could be a game plan. It could be something where, you know, maybe he's trying to psych Canelo out as if the fight may not happen, or maybe trying to sound worried and he's gonna show up prepared. Or I honestly don't know. That's something that's questionable. Like, why would he complain about a ring? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get it.
Especially at the last minute, right?
The fight of your life. Yeah, this is the fight of your life. Billy Joe ain't never fought nobody. All those guys he fought, he over in the UK, he got some dubs over there. You in America now, you know what I'm saying? Stop complaining, shut up, get off the fight, let's work. You know what I'm saying? It's time to work.
Very good. Speaking of Canelo, he actually just said again that he wants to fight you. He wants to give the fans what they want. Realistically, when do you see
He didn't
that
say
fight?
that. He said it would be a good fight. He said it's something that the fans want and that he don't know if he can come back down to 160. So, listen, I campaign at 160. Golovkin's still at 60. Maybe we can do something where we can work out a catch weight and they still represent the title or something. I don't know. I'm not into all that. You know what I'm saying?
Got it. No, that makes sense. You don't want to give up advantages and that kind of thing. But when do you see it actually happening? Or do you see it actually happening? And if so, when? Are we talking within the next year or two?
Man, we can fight later at the fall, you know. I don't think he has nothing on the resume. He likes to fight in September. I'll be ready then. Fight June 19th. I'll be ready in September. I ain't going to take no time off. Whatever they want. They're going to try to put me in a situation where it's not fair for me. So that's why that's why I'm prepared, you know, to be comfortable in the most uncomfortable position. And if that takes fighting a guy that I'm fighting on June 19th, that's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm here to win. I'm here to take over the world. And this is something, boxing is not that hard to make a fight. You know what I'm saying? They make fights every day.
So you mentioned, I'm sorry, Ken, you mentioned the possibility of a catch weight. So maybe 164 is something you would consider for a Canelo fight?
Whatever it make Canelo happy.
Okay.
Just to get him in the fucking ring with Jermall Charlo and have the fans shut up and stop talking about, you know, I'm ducking somebody. How the hell can I be ducking somebody that's at a whole nother weight division that don't want to come down to my weight division? I got the belt. He don't got no belt. He has no belt, no title, nothing to offer. A two-time cheater. And you want me to go way up there to go fight him? I'll do the shit. But does it make sense? Who's controlling this?
Right. And not to mention that you already moved up and tried to make the fight. You became his mandatory.
I could have fought Canelo at 154. We was on the same cards then. He fought my gym mate.
Now, when you look at your resume, Jermall, I mean, you fought Derevyanchenko, you fought Korobov, you fought Julian Williams, you fought Austin Trout, you fought Cornelius Bunbridge. Do you think that a lot of what you've accomplished is being overlooked by the media and perhaps some fans as well?
Nah, to be honest with you, man, I'm a young black fighter, on top of the world. I'm living a great life. I got a good team behind me. Call me one of the, I go down in history as one of the biggest blacklisted fighters of all time. Put it like that. They can't duck me forever, but at the end of the day, their career goes in flame when they talk about Jermall Charlo because they never got a chance to fight somebody like me. So it's their fault. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna always be great. I'm gonna always be a hero. Always be a champion to the people who love Jermall Charlo. So that's who I fight for.
Now, you brought up David Benavidez as a potential opponent. You guys had some back and forth a couple months ago. Is that a fight that you want, or is that something you're looking at down the line, maybe after you move from 160?
Like I said, if David Benavidez can come to 160 tomorrow, we can make it happen. If he that interested in fighting me and the fans is really pulling for him that much, hey, man, get him a nutritionist, get him a trainer, get him a chef, get him at 160. I'm gonna make my weight. He can go. I won't give him no. He can go up to 190 after the fight. I don't care. As long as he can fight at the weight limit of 160 pounds, it is what it is.
It sounds to me like you truly want to stay at 160 and unify the belt at 160.
I moved up from 154 and let my brother have that division. I could have easily stepped up and fought Jerry Hurd for the IBF world title. But after fighting J-Rock, I was straining myself to make the weight. It's not healthy. So I moved up to 160 to go chase. And I'm not chasing anymore. I'm hunting.
Now, you just brought it up yourself. You've won titles in 2 divisions. You're considered one of the best fighters today. Aside from just unification, is it just unification 160? What more would you like to accomplish in the sport of boxing? What
more do y'all want to see me accomplish? I want to get all the belts. Maybe if I can go up and get another belt at 168, and if those guys don't want to fight me at 168, then maybe it's somebody out there. I'm not going back down to 54. I'm not going to 47. Shit, 75 maybe. I don't know. I got to skip around. Maybe I can catch a catch weight at catch one of those guys at a catch weight. I don't know. The sky's the limit. The future is ahead of us. Man, we still fighting. I'm still getting stronger. I'm still growing. 31 years old. A month from the fight. So I feel good about everything. I feel good about my position. And maybe we can make one of those big championship fights before all the fans run to the water. They water the sport down with all this YouTube and shit. Maybe I could fight one of them YouTube guys. I'll fight one of them dudes and put my WBC belt on the line.
What do you make of those kind of fights?
You know what I'm saying?
What do you make of that? When you see fights like that, what do you make of it?
It's funny to me because you never know how the world's changing. We just change with it. You know what I mean? They make everybody, get vaccinated. You got to get this to do that. You got to get this to do. We don't have no choice, right? You living in the same world as me, and shit. I've been fighting my whole life, so I know I got the advantage over somebody from YouTube, because YouTube ain't been out as long as I've been out.
I think I don't think they want to fight you, though.
World champion like me, so maybe we whatever. You know what I'm saying? If say this motherfucker do get lucky or something with Floyd Mayweather, maybe he might want a real title.
True.
Maybe he might want to take a real 12-round bout. I'm that guy.
Well, let's see, Jamal. We want to see them big fights, period.
Nobody else want to fight me.
I would pay to see Jermall Charlo versus Logan Paul.
Shit, I pay to rewatch it. That's how bad it is. But they got all these football players and basketball players, real athletes out there. They got some, Ocho Cinco finna fight.
Right.
I can't up on. I'm a cornerback too. I can lock Ocho up.
No, but he trained with you, right? Maybe I can go over to football.
Maybe I could try out for the Texans. Maybe I could try out for the Rockets or somebody. I can dunk.
Now you trained with Ocho Cinco, right?
Nah, Ocho's scared of me.
Oh, so he wouldn't spar with you?
Nah, he won't spar with me. He's talking. We do this boxing shit for real. Y'all tripping.
Yeah. I understand. I don't think any of them would be in a rush to get in the ring with you, man.
Nah, for real.
Jermall, in closing, what would you like to say to your fans?
Fans, I'm fighting for the guys who love me, man. I'm fighting for the people out there who love me, the people who know Jermall Charlo, the underground story behind it. I'm one of the most misunderstood boxers in the game. And thank y'all for rocking with me. Thank y'all for tuning in. June 19th, fireworks. Same thing, another explosive night of boxing. And y'all tune in.
All right, it's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe. This week, we're going to look back at the entire Ruiz-Arreola card and give out some awards. I think there was a little something for everyone and a little bit of everything, so let's get right to it. First category is the biggest surprise of the night. Mike, what shocked you the most about Saturday night?
Well, I hate to do this, but I have to acknowledge how wrong I was about Omar Figueroa. He has a track record, he has God-given talent, and it sounded as if he was in a good place, both physically and emotionally. I know he lost badly to Yordenis Ugas, which you mentioned earlier, but that was a long time ago. I thought he'd come quite a ways since then. Well, it turned out he hadn't. He just had next to nothing in the fight. So I would say for me personally, that was the biggest surprise, that he didn't give much resistance to Abel Ramos.
Yeah, well, along those lines, the biggest surprise for me was Abel Ramos. Not that he won, but how he won. I thought he looked fantastic, showed a great ring IQ, power, speed, everything. Perhaps that was, as you say, part of that may be due to Omar Figueroa and what he brought or what he didn't bring to the ring that night. But look, Ramos he's getting better and better. I mean, this guy he scored that last second knockout out Brian Perella. We saw what Perella did at 154 against a former champ and Tony Harrison. Split decision loss to Yordenis Ugas. I think he's right back in the welter mix and, should get a big fight next. Who had the best performance on Saturday night?
Well, I would say the most dominating performance was turned in by Abel Ramos, but I don't want to say that was the best performance given the opposition. No disrespect to him. He really had a good night. I thought about Ruiz, so I thought looked really good. He overcame the early problems and looked really good. I thought Jesus Ramos, Abel's nephew, I thought he looked very strong. He was in charge the entire fight, but I'm going to go with Fundora. I know he was vulnerable. I know he took some shots, but he took them and just handed Cota a brutal beating. Plus, he was the most entertaining guy in the card. And to me, that can't be underestimated. That's a significant thing to me. So I would say Fundora had the best night, even though he looked vulnerable in the process.
I went with Eduardo Ramirez, dismantled Isaac Avalar, showed serious pop. He looks hungry. It's better than ever. I think we need to see the fight against Leo Santa Cruz ASAP. It would be an absolute war. Now, I think I know what the answer is to this, but what about the best knockout of the night?
Oh, no doubt about this one. It was Lara. That was some punch. I mean, he just put the guy to sleep instantaneously. So you got to give Lara the props.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we forget how much power he has because of how skilled he is, but man, he showed it on Saturday night. I mean, flattened Cornflake LaManna. Perhaps 160 is a better fit for him, at this stage of his career. I definitely like seeing him sit on his punches. I hope we see more of that. Final category, best fight. What are you picking?
Well, for me, there's no question it was Fundora Cota.
Yeah.
Not many fights heat up immediately after the opening bell, but this one did. It was like it took a split second. They both just fired away almost recklessly from the outset, and both landed just big shots, which fans are going to eat up every single time. I guarantee you people were loving that. This is just crazy stuff. It was just a matter of who was going to survive, and that turned out to be Fundora. That fight wasn't artful, in most respects, but it was entertaining as hell.
Yeah, it sure was. And you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, they went at it from the opening bell. Neither wanted to take a backward step. And I love it when two guys are like, you know what, let's just test each other's will. Let's see who can give it and who can take it better. I mean, both of them were hit with some bombs. I still can't believe it didn't even go 4 full rounds. I felt like it was nonstop bombs away. And for some reason, I look up and I'm thinking it's like round 6 or round 7, but it wasn't. It was just a great fight. Both are such good TV fighters. I can't wait to see them back in the ring, and I can't wait for our next episode. Thanks to Jermall Charlo, Mario Barrios for stopping by, and to you for listening. Be sure to check us out next week for more boxing talk, more interviews, right here on the PBC podcast.